I'm going to show you what you can do to apply for the Economic Impact Payment, also known as the Coronavirus Relief Rebate or Refund, among other things, if you are married to somebody who is not a US citizen. First, I want to mention today is the first time that I'm opening this system. I am a US qualified CPA, licensed CPA, but I'm giving this to you as friendly advice. I'm going to show you something that I know works. It has not been around a long time. I'm not promising you that what the results will be. I'm just going to say this is one way that you probably will be able to get a refund if you are married, so you can't file a single, and your spouse does not have a social security number or US taxpayer ID. So I'm starting on the web page. That's coronavirus, irs.gov/coronavirus/non-filers. Enter payment info here. You don't need the rest. Okay. For a more lengthy explanation on filing requirements and whatnot, you can see my previous videos. So I'm going into non-filers, enter payment info here. Again, this is for people who don't need to file a tax return. I'm going to go to get started and I'm going to sign in. When you sign into this system, it brings you to the simplified form. I already did a video about this form. You notice at the top the options are single or married filing jointly. If you don't meet either of these, if neither of these are your filing status, what do you do? So this is a great form for people who don't have a filing requirement and meet this criteria. If you don't meet this criteria, what I found that you can do is you can go to Start Over. You click Start Over, you click Delete Return, then it gives you two options. One is that you're registering for the economic impact payment, which is the simple form for people who are single or filing jointly with another US citizen. Or you can click File My 2019 Tax Return. Now, I want to warn you, be very careful if you don't know how to file a tax return, if you have anything more than the absolute simplest kind of income. If you live abroad and you have income, a number of things, you need to be very careful with this form. But this is an option if you basically have no income at all and you are married filing separately. It goes through. That's all I'm going to tell you. I'm not saying this is good. I'm not saying this is, I'm not telling you whether or not this fulfills any specific requirements. What I'm saying is that this will work and you can try it if you feel up to it. So what you would do is you can file married filing separately. You could also choose head of household. Both of these are options for people who are not single and not married to a US citizen. Married filing separately, you need to put in your spouse's first name, last name, and a taxpayer ID. Okay, so what do you do here? So I haven't tried it with nothing. I suggest you first try with nothing and see if it'll go through. What I know will go through is you can put in their name, and what we do when we file on professional software, a lot of us, is we write NRA. NRA stands for non-resident alien. Now, technically, when you file a tax return, if you're paper filing, NRA is supposed to go here with the spouse social security number, but it's not going to fit here. It won't let you do that. So what we often do, if we want to e-file, is we put in NRA either before the first name or after the last name, just to signal to the IRS that we are filing with somebody, we are married to somebody who they should not expect to get a tax return from. So one thing that I know will work is you can put in all zeros here and it will at least initially go through. Again, this is the first day I'm doing this. It's possible that it will get rejected tomorrow or the next day. You need to watch your email, but initially it does seem to work. You then put in your own first name, your own middle initial if you have one, and last name. Make sure you're using the last name that matches your social security number. If you got married abroad and you never changed your social security number you never changed your name with the Social Security Administration in the US, you would probably be using your maiden name. So make sure you use the name that's on your social security card. You need to fill in your address. Make sure this is an address where you can get mail. It doesn't have to be your home address legally. but it needs to be an address where you get mail. Usually for most people, that's going to be their home address. You can put in any dependents here. These are, if you have dependents who were over the age of 17, there's probably no point in putting them in here. If those people can still be claimed, they're eligible to be your dependent. They are not eligible to get their own refund. But you're not going to get more money for them if they're over the age of 17. You need to put in every single child or dependent who you have who has a social security number. They don't have a social security number. Also, there's really no point in putting them in here, and their relationship to you. Then you put in any income that you have. If you have wages anywhere in the world, you put it here. I'm talking specifically right now about people who didn't otherwise have a filing requirement. So let's say you earned, I don't know, the equivalent of $8,200. Actually, someone with that amount who's married filing separately would have a requirement. Let's say you earned $4 of wages, or you earned $1 of interest. Anything that you have, you need to put in the tax return. Another thing I want to bring your attention to that I'm not recommending one way or the other, I want to bring your attention to it, you can do your own research, is that if you live abroad and you have a foreign account, you are generally required to report that. So if you click next to Schedule B, next to where it mentions Schedule B here, you click Add. That's going to bring you to Schedule B. Schedule B is normally where you would input if you earned any interest or any dividends. But what I want to draw your attention to is this bottom part. So line 7A says you need to write whether you have any foreign accounts at all. So most people living abroad do have at least one foreign account. You have a bank account, you have a pension, you have something foreign. Line 7B is asking if you were required to file the FinCEN Form 114, also known as the FBAR. You have that requirement. I have a lot more information on that on my website and my Facebook page, but basically you look at the highest balances in all your accounts. If all the highest balances in all your accounts outside the US total over $10,000, which in shekels is about 34,500 shekels this year, then you did need an FBAR and you would click yes. Once you get to this point of clicking yes, please just speak with an accountant. Just take a break. Don't try to do this on your own. Speak with an accountant. If you don't and you didn't need an FBAR, you would click here. If you did need an FBAR and you want to keep going, you need to make sure you put the name of the country or countries here where you were required, where you have your foreign accounts. In this case, we're going to assume this person does not meet the threshold. So it's yes, we have foreign accounts. No, we don't need an FBAR. And here, it's if you have something to do with a foreign trust. You can read that on your own, but most people, in this case, it's a no. Then if you've gone to Schedule B and you're done on Schedule B, you click Done with this form, you go back to your main tax return. There's a number of other forms here that could be relevant to you, but this is the main one that could be relevant to somebody who basically has no other income. The standard deduction for somebody in 2019, you're filing 2019 tax return, someone who is single or married filing separately, is $12,200. And then you can click do the math. And it's going to see if you have a tax liability, which if you have $1 of interest or $5 of wages or something like that, any income under $12,200, it's going to be zero. Okay? Then you go down here and you put in your routing number and account number. Again, I cannot promise that putting your information in here is going to get you a direct deposit, but you can try it, and once enough people have tried it and I find out, then I will update this. But if you do want to do this, this is what you would do. You would put your routing number here and your account number here. You can put your occupation. This would only be filled in if you're paying somebody to do your taxes. If you're using the system, probably you're doing it yourself. I hope you're doing it yourself. If you were paying somebody, that person needs to include their information and their PTIN, their preparer's tax identification number. And that's really important. So, please don't use accountants. Don't pay anybody to do your taxes if they're not filling in all of their information down here. That's a real red flag. Okay, so let's say you filled in everything, and then you can click to step 2. You file your tax returns. This first section is if you have any of these specific US forms. In most cases, the answer is going to be no. If you did receive a W-2, you would attach a scan of the W-2 or the 1099-R for retirement account distributions, things like that, or W-2G. All of those things need to be attached. If you had US income or US pension distributions and there were taxes withheld, you fill in that information here. Do not put information here about foreign taxes withheld. If you are living in a foreign country and working in a foreign country, for example, you're working in Israel and Israel withholds taxes, that is not considered foreign federal withholding. That's not considered federal withholding. Don't put that information here. You'll end up getting a refund that you're not supposed to get, and that's not good. So for most people, you're gonna leave this blank, and then you continue down to putting in last year's AGI. If you've never filed before, and make sure you didn't actually need to file before, otherwise go back and check on that and speak with a professional. Assuming you never needed to file before, you're gonna have 0 here. And if you did file in the past, you use your PIN. You can also put your PIN here to verify your identification. But again, most people I'm talking to here are people who did not have a filing requirement. So you're going to put a 0 here and it'll go through. You sign using today's date and your cell phone number. Again, I'm not telling you what's right or wrong, but based on my experience, it will go through if you put in a foreign cell phone number without the country code, as long as it's the right number of digits. And you can choose, you choose a PIN. Usually the PIN is going to be the last 5 digits of your social security number. It's going to tell you can't use all zeros or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So pick some other random PIN. Usually most accountants use the last 5 digits of someone's social security number as the PIN. You put in your date of birth, and then if you have a US driver's license, you fill in that information here. If you don't, you can leave it blank and it'll go through. Section 5 is only if you owe taxes. Don't start filling in your routing and account number here if all you want is a direct deposit. This isn't where it goes. This is for paying taxes. So skip all this stuff about paying taxes unless you really need to pay taxes. Again, if you've gotten this far and you might actually owe taxes or you have income, go back, speak with an accountant, please. And then you get to the end. Once you get to the end, you're going to hit continue to e-file. Assuming you're not missing anything that is important or required, a CAPTCHA will pop up. You put in the CAPTCHA and then something else will pop up saying that you need to confirm. So if you're helping someone do this, you could get all the way through the CAPTCHA step and then you could take a break and make sure that they authorize everything that you've done for them. Another option, if you were helping someone do this, is that you can actually, let's say, for example, not a professional preparer who's doing this, but let's say you were helping your elderly mother or your grown children doing this. You could get all the way to this step, and then you could exit, and they can then sign in with their password and their login, and they can review everything you've done, and then they can continue to e-file. So that is one option if you do want to help somebody. So you're going to continue to e-file, and then if you've done everything and gotten through the last step, you will get an email confirmation, and that's it. I hope you found this helpful. Again, I'm not taking any, liability for any of this. This is friendly advice. This is not professional tax advice. I'm just walking you through what I'm seeing on this particular tax form.